Are we in a buyer's market? Why more landlords are converting units into short-term rentals? CMHC is making apartment building by buying harder, especially the refinance part, and lessons from managing 30 Airbnbs. All this and more on the Truth About Real Estate Investing show for Canadians. I'm your host, Erwin Cito, of the number 81 ranked business podcast in all of iTunes globally. Somehow we cracked the algorithm and we achieved top like 0.1% status. This show is for open-minded individuals who love to learn and open to questioning norms and authorities, including by whatever's been sold by influencers and those in the investment community. I see all those emails and Facebook ads about courses for cottage rental investing or short-term rental or mid-term rental with promises of easy six-figure cash flow. So when I read these things, I put in calls to my friends, including Jonathan and Mai, who are full-time in the same space, and I asked them for their experience in my search for the truth about real estate investing. Hence, Mai and Jonathan are here today on the show as they manage, like I said, I've repeated a couple times, they own a couple, and their total portfolio of management includes 30 Airbnbs. They'll be on today's show. Before we get to them, the city of Toronto has a $1.5 billion shortfall. And if you've been following the news, they're not the only municipality with financial trouble. I'm seeing news across the country with above inflation property tax increases expected, with more on the way. Town of Markham. I'm not sure why only Town of Markham is making the news. I think that maybe because they're the only ones who are projecting further ahead a little bit. But anyways, in the Town of Markham's staff 2023 budget overview, they proposed a tax increase of 93.3%. That's right, 93. So it's almost 100% starting next year to 2026. So over a 3-year period, the proposed tax increase is almost 100%, and they're blaming the Bill 23, the More Homes Build Faster Act. City of Hamilton is closer to home for me, is already considering a 14% property tax increase next year, which translates to about $500 per house that my clients and I own. On top of that, a couple of my student rentals went up $500. So that's an increase between tax and between tax and insurance. That's an increase of $1,000 per year. With cash flow already tight, many properties out there and many people are negative with rates already. Add rent control, so we can't pass these costs on without a lot of pain. Above guideline increases often take a couple of years, sometimes around 3 to get done, and even then, tenants seem to fight them. If you've been following the news, there are rent strikes all over Toronto for above guide rental increases. Anyways, this is a tough business to be in. Hence, more landlords, quote unquote, quote, more landlords are converting units into short-term rentals, end quote, is the latest article on Bloomberg Canada. And the reason our Airbnb guests are here today. What's a real estate entrepreneur to do with rising costs and long-term tenants' rents capped? Naturally, they'll pivot towards Airbnb for the usually higher income and avoidance of the landlord-tenant board, where in my experience, it takes about 7 months just to get a hearing. And so, real estate entrepreneurs, they don't feel they have enough control, and they don't feel protected by the laws in our systems. In the same article, a McGill University professor, who is a chair in urban governance, has research that shows that Airbnbs, short-term rentals increase housing costs, and recommends that cities with housing shortages ban short-term rentals, except for those in landlords' own primary residences. What's not mentioned by the same university professor is the effect on the 500,000 or so new international visa students that came to Canada last year. This year, we're looking to get well over 600,000 international visa students. Many of them attend post-secondary schools like McGill U, and you better believe they have an effect on housing costs as well. In my experience, I have a couple of international students myself in houses, and my students are from India, and they all work in the restaurant industry. Their job is actually as cooks, similar to. So the story that I see, my own experience, is very similar to what I'm reading in the media. The student tenant crisis is legit. I got an article to the Bloomberg article in the show notes. On to next is CMHC is making apartment strategies much more difficult. That's buy, renovate, refinance, rent out, repeat. So I can't find anything online on this news, but I've spoken to 3 investor friends, each of whom own millions upon millions. Several of these folks, they buy a couple of apartment buildings, they own a couple of apartment buildings. But basically, CMHC on refinance wants to see the funds going into buying more rental stock or improving existing rental buildings. They don't just want to see equity takeouts to repair shareholders or repay the real estate investor. Add that one must already be with an approved lender in order to refinance. So private lending or vendor take back mortgages, those investors will need to be with an approved bridge lender. Often the CMHC might even require you to be with that approved lender for 2 years before you're able to refinance. So read into that as meaning more hoops and more cost. This is a big deal to many small real estate investors since cash flow is extremely limited. I don't think there's actually much at all in apartment building investing since cap rates are low and interest rates are already high. So small investors, they tend to depend on the refinance money to cover their daily expenses and their living. So apartment building investors, please keep an eye on this space. It sounds like CMHC wants to focus more on developments that creates more housing supply. On the personal investing front, my flight to Atlanta is booked to tour some properties, meet with property managers. One of them has 800 doors under management, which is unheard of here in Ontario, probably BC too. Because unless it's an institutional investor like a REIT and it's an in-house PM. Of course, like in Hamilton, Effort Trust has something like that, has 800, I don't know, thousands of doors, but they only manage their own. I'm talking about property management companies that manage for other customers. So learning about the States has been very fascinating. When the laws favor the landlord, more and more mom and pop investors own rental properties. So rental property investment is very common in the States from my research. Hence, there's need for large property management firms, and these property management firms can actually make a living, can do good business because the laws are not in favor of the tenant. And their clientele is not at risk of being without rent for months while they battle things out at the landlord tenant board. My due diligence on investing in the USA continues. I've printed off for my old RAIN friends, real estate investment network friends. You'll remember the property goldmine scorecard. So I've printed several of those off. I'm going to do my diligence the old school way and make sure that I check off all the right. Make sure I can complete my diligence correctly. And again, to look for the best areas to invest in the United States of America. There's no doubt in my mind. So I love Canada. I love living here. It's meant so much to me and my family to be Canadians. It's no doubt in my mind that the golden horseshoe of Ontario will increase in price when interest rates are cut, but the same will be happening as well if you buy it correctly in the US. So Cherry and I are selling some of our properties here in Canada, here locally, and I'll reallocate some of that capital to pay off debts, buy some houses that cash flow in landlord-friendly states. Using easy commercial style mortgages. So this is something that was new to me. I did not know that you could get commercial style mortgages in the States. So qualification is way easier than my experience here. Institutional grade property managers exist. They'll manage my properties for me, and there's no rent control. I haven't been into this excited about real estate investing in a really long time. Way more excited about this than garden suites, to be honest. We're going to make real estate investing great again. And I'll bring you, the listener, along for our journey. If you'd like to learn more how other Canadians are diversifying their portfolios, our next online only IWIN meeting is Tuesday, October 17th. We have U.S. investing expert Andrew Kim, who will be on the show. He owns properties in Sunbelt states like Florida, Texas, Georgia, New York. And we'll also have my old friend Tim Collins. So if you're interested in something more like stocks, my old friend Tim Collins will be detailing how he cash flows over $10,000 per month with the proceeds of his real estate portfolio. After he took profits liquidating all of its real estate in 2021, he now earns a passive income as both a realtor and also via stock ETFs and high yield ETFs. So he's going to get into more detail into that, as well as sharing about how he's able to save a lot of his costs by being at one of these newest tech-based real estate brokerages. That's all on a Tuesday night. Then following, that's all on October 17th, Tuesday night. And then immediately the following Saturday morning, we are hosting our first ever Investing in US Real Estate Workshop. Our guest speakers are from Share, who are Canadian. So we have their Chief Investment Officer, Dimitri. We have their CFO as well. Now, CFO is a chartered professional accountant in both Canada and the US. Dimitri, the Chief Investment Officer, he has experience acquiring and managing over 20,000 units in Sunbelt states. So, and also my good friend Scott Dillingham of Lend City, who is a dual citizen. And so he's a guy who can get us Canadians commercial style mortgages on income properties in the US. So the costs are nominal. It's less than $40 because my friends from Share and Lend City are donating their time to educate all of us on how we can make real estate investing great again without rent control, without the landlord-tenant board. We're almost sold out the in-person venue. I think we maybe have 3 tickets left. We have a cap of about 100 tickets in total. So we're getting close to that already. I think we have sold out about 80 tickets already. So do not wait. I have links in the show notes for both the IWIN meeting and for the US Investing Workshop. You don't want to miss it. On to this week's show. We have my old friends, Mai Nguyen and Jonathan Lim, whose travel agency business was hit pretty hard by COVID. But thanks to their experience as early adopter Airbnb hosts, they were successfully able to pivot into short-term rental management and ownership, specifically Airbnb. And now the couple owns and manages a total of 30 Airbnb properties, from Muskoka cottages 2 hours north of Toronto to downtown Toronto condominiums to recreational properties in Niagara Falls. They have quite a bit of experience on what works, what doesn't work, the good, the bad, and the ugly. The truth about short-term rentals is that they are a hospitality business. That means a lot of customer service. Cleaners are absolutely critical to the business. Location and amenities mean the difference between success and failure. It's totally doable. We've had several guests on the show who are successful doing this, but it does come down to education and execution. Hence, Mai and Jonathan are here to share how to do it, tell it like it is, including the mistakes they made when they first listed their own home on Airbnb. It's actually a pretty funny story. Again, they were early adopters before many of us knew what Airbnb was. So they're going to share how they've used Airbnb to fund their travel, what types of properties to buy, red flags for potential guests, and scams, especially scams. I'm sure you've read about scams in the paper. They're pretty awful. And should you be buying? And then they answer the question, should you be buying a property today for the purposes of Airbnb? So before buying a recreational property, course, or property, I highly recommend you giving this episode a listen. Please enjoy the show. Oh, of course, you can reach Mai and Jonathan. All their information is on the show notes. Their company is called Short Stays International, and that's www.shortstaysintl, which is short for international.com. You can find them on Instagram. And also, if you could be so kind, if you're interested in becoming a host, Mai did post her referral link for Airbnb, which saves you some money, and it's all in the show notes. Please enjoy the show. Hi, Mai. Hi, Jonathan.
Hello.
Thanks for coming in.
Pleasure.
How did you get started in short-term property management?
Great question. You want me to go first?
Yeah.
Sure. So the short story of it is we actually tested out managing our own property doing Airbnb years back. I would say about 8-10 years back, right?
Oh, so one of the first.
Yeah, been a while because we actually one day I remember I'm in the travel business and I'm always online searching for different cool apps. And one day I was doing a presentation on like the online world, and there's the Airbnb app and what it's doing. I think a lot of people in Canada doesn't even know about Airbnb back then. And when we talked about it, it was so interesting. However, we never experienced Airbnb ourselves. And then I remember one day we took a trip to Montreal, and we were about to, it's a last minute trip, and we're like, let's look at a hotel. So we went on booking.com, and then we're like, you know what? Why don't we try this Airbnb thing out? I think we should. Yeah. And so we found a last minute Airbnb that was available. We went to Montreal, we got in, and the host was really nice. He owned the condo, he doesn't live there. And just throughout the whole process, we're like, well, this is cool. We should test it out when we come back home. So, but we said that, but we never thought about it. I guess a couple of years later, one day we, were looking to make some extra cash, or we were traveling anyways. We weren't going to be around.
Yeah.
And then
we were traveling like every other month.
Yes.
We would take a trip for a long weekend, or we'd take a week, we'd take off for a week, and we only had one kid at the time, so it was a lot easier to travel.
I remember the emails, like you guys were doing some pretty skiing and surfing.
We're doing snowboarding, skiing trips. Yeah. And we would go on all these trips, and we're always looking to be out and about anyways. And we thought about it, and we're all about multiple streams of income. So we're like, hey, there's people renting out their own home. Yeah. I was hesitant at first, right? But I was like, let's test it out. Let's make sure our place, we had an apartment in downtown Toronto. Let's just clean it up. And so I remember I put it online while we were still living there, because our plan is as soon as someone booked, we're flexible, we'll just travel somewhere. Whenever someone booked, okay, we'll just go somewhere. And I swear, that was our life. I swear to you.
And you can usually find like really good deals, like last minute sales on flights.
Because we didn't have 9-to-5 jobs. I guess we were flexible in a way where we're like, you know what, if someone booked, then that means time for us to find some place and go. And I remember I would put it on, but back then I was not very familiar with the app. So what happened was I got the listing up, and then I swear to you, I guess I left it there, and it would be like 4 months gone by, and I was telling John, hey, I wonder what happened to our listing. I should check, because I didn't see any notifications. I guess I had it off. I went in, there's like 10 different inquiries about my place that I never responded to, so they end up booking somewhere else. I said to John, oh my God, this thing actually worked. There are lots of people seeing our listing and our inquiry. And obviously my response rate tanked so low, and I was rated terrible.
Because they're not responsive.
I think some people had even booked, and then they're not getting any check-in info, and they're like following up with us. Airbnbs
had to cancel them.
They had to cancel them and rebook them in other properties.
So we start off as terrible hosts, right? That was like that absent, like put this listing on. And back then, I guess Airbnb didn't have a lot of the same regulations now. Things were really easy. And anyways, I learned. So I told John, oh, this works. So when we're ready to have our place rented out, we better be like, on the ball. Like if we're gonna turn it back on, we had to unlist our property. And when we're ready to have someone to come in, then we turn it on. And then as soon as we turn it on, we had lots of inquiries, and people were coming, and we were able to accept a few bookings, and then basically that's how we experienced Airbnb as a host for the first time. And we continued to do that every time we wanted to travel. And then fast forward to COVID. So right in the beginning of COVID, we had a travel business, and then as COVID hit, everything was canceled. Right. Basically,
you had to pivot.
Yeah, we had zero business.
Imagine March and April of 2020.
Yeah. Scary time. Yeah.
We were the people that every angry traveler, that lost their flight or couldn't book, or because nobody was paying for insurance, like cancellation insurance at that time either. I remember. Everybody was calling. Our phones were going off the hooks with people just yelling at us because where's our money, and we can't get this flight, and we don't want to travel, and we don't want to get COVID.
And we had a huge anniversary group and a wedding group. It was like, imagine spending tons of time working on these groups already. And as soon as it's...
And knowing no money's going to come in.
Right.
Yeah, because the way it works in the travel industry is the money is with the supplier. So back then it was with Sunwing. So Sunwing had it, and they get future travel credit, but in terms of our work, we don't get compensated until someone travel.
Yeah,
That's a different industry
we
anyways.
were doing destination weddings. So
Yeah.
this is not just a family of 4. This is a
100.
group of 100 people.
Is Sungwing still around?
Yeah,
Yeah?
they're
Okay.
still around.
Okay.
You know, there's word of bankruptcy or they're selling off, but they're still around. And so I remember looking at John and say, well, you know what? I guess we have to figure what else are we going to do, right? The travel came to a halt. And I remember I was invited to a cottage up in Blue Mountain. A friend of mine that got a new cottage, and she's like, oh, would you be interested in manage this? It's a bit kind of like, it's an hour, so it's not too far, but it's not close either. And then at that gathering, she had a friend who was a realtor that was around as well too. And the realtor and I met, and the realtor said, you know what? We have a bunch of properties too, and one of them we want to do Airbnb, but we have no time for Airbnb. We're so busy. Right? Would you be open to taking it on? I know you share, because they were asking us what we did in the past, and we share we had experience doing Airbnb. We're like, sure. We actually never thought about it, but we're like, okay, we've been able to manage ours, so let's see how this would work. So we then took on that first property in Port Credit, and that was quite the experience, actually. Right? We learned quite a bit. It's one thing to manage your own property, because you get a say in everything, but it's another to manage someone else, making sure they get their bottom line figure, but there's limitations that you can
Well, there's
do.
a learning curve too.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And you're managing, and now you're trying to figure a team, because you don't want to be the one doing everything, because you want to be able to add on more properties. And then from that one property, things were done very well. And I guess she started referring us to other clients. And then those clients started referring us. And then before you know it, I mean, we had about 30 properties listing within like a span of a year and a half. People were just calling us. They're like, you know what?
Well, that's explosive growth.
It was
Yeah,
crazy.
it was crazy. So it was a lot of up and down. We kind of took on a lot of different properties, but we also learned which properties work well, which doesn't work well, what we want to do as a company. And we did some rebranding. We started off with basically at first it's just kind of like, you know, self-employed, and then we're like, oh, we should put this under an incorporation. We should run it as a property
Well,
management.
we learned how to be interior designers, really bad ones. We learned how to be landscapers. We learned how to be, you know, handy men and women, and we kind of wore a lot of different hats in that.
And cleaners.
And
so we learned how
cleaners,
to clean properly
Right,
as well too, because there's different aspect to cleaning an Airbnb versus cleaning a regular house. Because no matter, like, even if we hire on other people, I feel we need to kind of know it as well too. And here we are. So we continue with the business, and it's
I
been
imagine
interesting.
you piled on the kilometers on your cars as well.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, at that time when we started, we were living downtown, and you know, initially we started driving back and forth to Muskoka, Blue Mountain. We were cleaning properties up there. We would just take the kids with us, and we would just, you know, we'd hang out there for a few nights and clean. And then from Mississauga, when we started in Mississauga, we were going back and forth all the time to Mississauga. And
There are a lot of Airbnbs in Mississauga. A lot of demand in Mississauga.
And Toronto downtown too. So the interesting thing was, before we managed the Port Credit, we weren't sure like how it'd be in Mississauga. Until we started managing that, we realized that we got a lot of inquiries of people that are just moving around. They just sold their house. It's not even travelers, because you think Airbnb are usually for people who travel into the
feel
city.
on vacation. Yeah.
Exactly. But no, these are people who are like, my house got burned, and, you know, unfortunately,
right.
I need a place, or I just sold my house and we're not going to move into our new house until another 2 months, right?
Which is your classic midterm rental
Yeah.
tenant profile.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, or
3
they're
to 6
fixing their
months.
house and they
Yeah.
can't be in their house. Or we had people who were
contractors who
who
you know,
were working.
they're there, they've been brought in from you know, another city, and they're there for a month or 2 months setting up the new gym or school, or you know,
Yeah.
whatever their
They're building.
business,
Yeah.
whatever they're building.
because they have exactly. I remember we had one guest who were such great guests, and they stay there. They're a company from Germany, and their product their technician has to be flown in from Germany, because
German
in Canada
engineering.
they don't have the same
Top notch.
engineers,
Yeah.
and so they had to. So it's interesting. So you meet all sorts of people. Yeah.
Interesting. So you mentioned you learned quickly what you wanted to manage and what you didn't.
Yeah.
What's a property you don't want to manage and why?
Yeah, so based on our experience, there are properties, and I say properties, but it comes as a package. It's also the homeowner or the investor.
Right.
So there are properties where it's kind of like the owner just bought it as is and just don't want to have long-term renters in, but they're not
I have
ready.
no idea why, but okay, continue.
Right? And don't want to have to deal with all these aspects of being in the hospitality business, because Airbnb is still hospitality. It's not just about investing. And so they would just throw the house out there and say, hey, you get it fully booked. And we found it's not the case. There's things you have to do to upgrade the house for a certain experience, for a certain look, right? And there's so many other houses that are empty, so why should a guest choose your house versus someone else? And so for us, we know that we have to look for the right type of client with the right mindset. They want to be good hosts. They want to invest into the experience for their guests.
This isn't fast, easy money.
No, it's not like that. Yeah. Maybe back in the days when it was new and you throw whatever property on Airbnb and
There still
you
needs
just
to be
get
furniture, did there not? You can just throw anything. It has to be a bed or an air mattress or something.
At least something. But now guests are more picky.
Oh, yeah.
They want the mattress to feel a certain way. It's no longer I just have a bed. Oh, your mattress doesn't feel good. Okay. You know, those are the things they
I want a coffee maker. I want coffee. I want a wine opener.
Oh, you got a drip coffee machine? Well, we want Keurig. You know?
Exactly.
We want pods or whatever.
No, people go to that extent. You really get that kind of feedback.
We get everything.
Yeah, for sure. And we get people to tell you, and you know, we appreciate the feedback, but it doesn't mean you have to follow all the feedback. It has to make sense either.
I can't believe someone would go to the extent of saying I need a Keurig. Like,
well, they would prefer that, or
because that's what they have at home, or you know, that's what they're used to.
Home.
And they're like, I don't know how to use a filter, you know, like it's you get some interesting
because I don't know how to use a filter. Right, okay.
All sorts of guests, right? So the more you can accommodate to all the range of guests without going too crazy, then you know, the more chance you have. Right?
But we learned that I mean, for me at least, in my experience, I don't like working with I would prefer not to work with an owner or an investor who likes mixed use. So for example, they want long-term tenants upstairs and then it's a duplex, and then they want to Airbnb the basement or vice versa. A lot of times I've seen that when you're trying to mix the two, they don't blend. They don't tend to blend very well.
Because the long challenges.
Well, the long-term tenant is not used to, and they don't like that there's always people coming in and out. And then a lot of times if people are coming in and out, if they're there for the weekend, they're there to enjoy, you know, noise tends to be a problem. And
so I think
parking, garbage, you know, a lot of those things become challenges.
And because
even when I had my own basement apartment, when I rented it in my home, I would deliberately rent it to a single person. Because then they're not talking to somebody all the time. Because you rent to a couple or a family, just even a couple, they're going to talk. And once in a while they're going to argue. And then you hear it all. Versus you rent to an individual, I'll take less rent to have less noise. Now imagine you have Airbnb folks. Like they come my family, like we're all talking, there's 4 of us. I'm sure it'd be disturbing to the long-term tenant.
And it's different if you're the homeowner that you live upstairs or you live in the basement.
I still wouldn't like it.
See, you wouldn't, but there's a lot of people who are willing to let that go because they needed the money, or it helps to have that in. But because you're the homeowner, it's fine. But for someone else who's renting your house long term and they're staying there, they don't care. At the end of the day, they pay their rent. They want their
cost of doing business.
Exactly. They want their
And
quietness.
often it's great. I have friends who the Airbnb pays their mortgage. The basement pays for their mortgage.
Exactly.
Which would be a lot of money these days.
Exactly.
Well, any day, but these days especially.
So because John mentioned that we tend to not like where they mix it, because we would get calls from both. Like, we're not the manager for the long-term rentals, but we get calls from the long-term tenants saying, hey,
you're getting complaint from a non-client.
Well, what tends to happen is these long-term tenants, because we're managing the short-term, we end up managing the long-term tenant as well, but we don't get paid for managing the long-term tenant. So then you start to deal with, and then the long-term tenant becomes your sort of eyes and ears, which is
nice.
It comes in handy sometimes, but it also tends to be like,
they can complain to you about everything.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't like that new group that just came in, this and that. And so we are actually managing everybody.
Or because we're so hands-on, the long-term tenant will be like, hey, listen, I haven't been able to get in touch with
The
such
owner.
and such owner. Do you have anybody? Can you fix the toilet, or can you can you call somebody to fix this and that?
Right.
And I think we're just nice, and we've always been the type who's like, since we're around anyways, we'll help.
Well, we want to keep the peace too. It helps our business if you have a long-term tenant that's friendly to the short-term guests.
But yeah.
So let's start with, say someone brings you a property. How often do they bring you a vacant property versus a property that's already furnished?
A lot of the client come to us because I would say they either just bought a house and they just decided not to rent it out long term. And so it's not furnished at all.
Right.
But they know they would have to furnish it.
Right.
So we advise them, we give them a checklist, what to do. And I like that.
So there's homework up front and investment, of course.
Yeah, there's homework and investment. The ones who already have fully furnished and everything, I feel they've already done their homework. And so usually most of our clients, they haven't furnished anything. They just come to us with an idea. Like they have a space or a property, or they're actually thinking of buying a property and they wanted our
typically
advice.
Outside of the the cottage vacation rentals, you won't see anything in the city that's furnished, expecting to convert from long term to short term. So if somebody is renting, like if they own a property and it's an investment property, they're not going to be prepared to do short term. So they have to. It's usually a blank canvas that we have to start with.
And then, so what's the capital outlay? What if I bring you a vacant house? How much should I expect to have to invest in order to get it ready?
Sure.
It's not easy either. It's not like this. It's like go on Amazon, click.
Yeah, no.
Deliver me TV to couch and bed and all that.
Because we furnish a full house, like on our own, 5-bedroom, and so we kind of have a ballpark budget. And because we also have looked into so many different type of furniture from so many different store, so we do have a budget sheet that we give our client. We said, look, like if you're looking to buy just all IKEA, this is the minimal. So you can look between, and usually it depends how many bedrooms you have, right? And you multiply it by the beds, the side tables. And so for us, I have seen where you can furnish a 2 to 3 bedroom place about 10 grand, I would say.
That's it, eh?
Yeah. But if you want quality, you can go up to 20 grand, 30 grand. Right? So it depends. But I know for us, for a 5-bedroom house, it was almost
about 30.
Yeah, about 30. 30 grand, right? So
at what point can you take over the property? Like, I've ordered all the IKEA, go assemble it. I'll see you next week.
Most of the time,
like, what I mean, like it's all in packaging.
Well, we've done it before where we've come in with the two of us, and we'll hire 1 or 2 other people and we'll assemble furniture and things like that. But now we kind of realize that unless the owner's willing to pay another $5 grand for our time. Let's say I'm just the ballpark figure, but then that's something that they would have to arrange on their own.
And a lot of them,
because IKEA I believe they offer that as an add-on.
But I find a lot of our clients, they're very aware of their budget and they want to keep it low, so they do a lot of it themselves. So what they do is they actually assemble the furniture, they put everything. And so normally what we do is we do an initial site inspection. So we come and we visit the property and we give them ideas. Then we've learned from the past, because we used to have to come back 4 or 5 times. I had a property where they said it's ready. When we come back, it's not ready, because their expectation what ready is not the same as ours based on our experience. So now we have a full checklist. We said you have to follow the checklist. Once it's fully 98% complete, sure, we'll come. And if there's any little, we don't need everything to be complete, because the main important thing is we just need like the things that you can't see. For example, like all the beds, the couch, the table, because for pictures, very important, so that We send in a professional photographer. They take the photo. We can then create it and put it on Airbnb or whichever other sites we use. And so we can actually list the property a month to 2 months before it's fully finished too. Like if it takes some of that long, because it takes some time for people to start looking on Airbnb to start booking, and throughout that period of time they can continue to get it ready. They don't have to have it 100% ready, right? Just the main thing. We've actually promoted we actually have listed houses where I don't know if this is a good practice, but we've done it before where we said they just bought over a house,
or we'll talk to the seller.
We talk to the seller and they give us the photo of how the house used to look. And we put it.
The client doesn't even own the house yet.
Well, technically, it's like they're gonna close in a couple of weeks. Yeah. But you're right. So I'm not sure how
the legitimate it is. It's been signed and everything.
But we do the same with long-term rentals. I get it.
But if they did, let's say if they took it over today, even it's not like they're gonna have all the furniture in by next week. They might, right? But we said, do you have any photos? But we would have to spend time really explicitly write on the description, this is not how the furniture will look. This is the house, the frame, but once the house will be available, let's say in 2 months from now, it will be fully new furniture, and we will update the photo for you, and we will show you how it looks like. We've done that with one of our property, and we flipped, the house looks completely different than how the house was when we bought it, and we got our first 2 months fully booked.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
And they're anxious though as the time comes. They're like, can you show me photos of how it actually will look? And we send it because we're confident it will look just as nice, if not better. But if you don't plan, that's why we're hesitant. If you don't plan to furniture as similar or just as nice, then I have to really spell it out. I don't want the guests to be booking something and they're not getting what they're, what they pay for. Yeah.
And another conversation we had when we weren't recording was you're mentioning how people would just close on something they bought pre-construction.
Yeah.
And now they're asking you to take it over. Is that common?
We had a few.
The last 12 months has been quite a few of investors who they're just stuck. They can't reassign the title. They're not able to sell their property, and so they're looking for any.
It's probably gone down, I'm guessing.
Yeah. They've locked in, and
I mean, because we don't know all the terms now, we don't know if they're supposed to do that. Because usually, I think with a lot of pre-construction, don't they have to stay and live in that house for at least 1 year before they can rent it out?
I'm not a lawyer.
So I tell them I'm not a lawyer either.
There's HST implications. Yes.
Yeah. So I can list it for you, but you have to figure if that's something that you're allowed to do.
There are HST implications.
There are certain regions where we manage certain properties that it's on them. We can do everything you ask us to do.
But it's on the.
But if there are implications, that's where we have to bow out.
Yeah. We advise everyone to look at the legality side of things, right? Does it allow you to have a permit? Do you require a permit? And what
but you know that side already. You know if they're going for it. You know if they need a permit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And usually there's townhouses or condos that they have to ask for permission, even in the city, that allows you to get a permit. But if that townhouse association doesn't, like for example in Mississauga, we had a property where they got a permit from the city, but the townhouse association contacted them and say, you're not allowed to rent anything out less than 6 months, even though the city approved.
Right.
Yeah.
So the condo board.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because condos have rules on no children, for example, no pets.
Yeah. Exactly.
My dad's condo.
No children.
I've heard. No.
Wow.
I have a family friend
seniors then. Seniors condo, you mean retirement condo?
It's an adults only condo. No child's allowed to live there.
Wow.
Yeah. Is that rare? Maybe it is rare.
It seems rare to me.
I've never heard that before. No children.
Seems rare.
Yeah. But it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, there's all sorts of different rules.
Look at Mexico. There's lots of resorts that are all.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I can understand they don't want.
Yeah. I can understand the need for that.
Anyone who's heard a baby crying on an airplane understands the need for people. Some people want their space.
Yeah, for sure.
It's in legislation like RTA, like quiet enjoyment of your property.
Yeah. So we hope we answer the questions about pre-construction for you.
Because what caught my attention was how many of them are there? Not a question for you, but my immediate thought is it could start getting saturated in terms of the availability of the number of Airbnbs. Like, for example, when I did my first Airbnb in Hamilton Mountain, there was I had maybe 4 direct competitors for that entire neighborhood.
Wow.
And that was years ago. I don't remember the year now. I think it's 2018-ish. 2018, I think it was. And now there's tons.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So, for example, one of my clients, she used to dominate VRBO. She had 2 of the 5 top properties on VRBO in terms of performance in Hamilton. Yeah. So she was doing midterm rentals before anybody else. She'd rent out. She had one house that's hilarious. She had one house that was not touched since the 80s, right?
But people love that.
Movies and TV studios rented it for that reason.
Yes.
If they wanted to shoot a dated scene from the 80s.
Yeah, that's right.
Because the house was basically frozen in time.
Oh, that's awesome.
Isn't that hilarious?
That's
crazy. And so she got tons of money for it. Yeah. But anyways, my point being is that she told me too, the last few years have never been so hard to keep it full.
Yeah.
Right? And that's kind of partly why I wanted to have you here. And part of the point of the show is to share the realities of real estate investing.
That's right.
So for example, if my client who dominates normally, and she hustles to be in contact with insurance companies, local major employers, to make sure that if they need her place, that it's available, and she's telling me she's having to hustle. My point is that this isn't easy money.
No.
Stuff's not just falling on people's laps.
No.
Right?
Well, my knee-jerk reaction to a lot of these investors who are trying to, they don't have any other option to flip their house, or they're bought pre-construction, is I tend to try to discourage them from doing Airbnb, because the first thing is you notice is that if they're just doing it for a short period of time, because they're just trying to buy the time, that 1 year, for example, that they need to put in, or it's supposed to be owner occupied, they're going to try to do the things very cheap.
Minimal.
Yeah. That's not your client.
No, that's not who we want to work with, because we're not looking to do business for the next just 12 months. This is a full-time business for us.
Then people planning for short-term shouldn't be spending $10,000-$20,000 on furniture.
Right.
They're going to be exiting in a year.
Right.
Exactly.
Right, exactly. And then to put in that financial investment of $20,000-$30,000, are you really prepared to do that for only a year? And then you have all this furniture now that you need to to offload. So I try to discourage them at first, because if that's not something that they really want to do, then that's technically not really the client we want to work with.
I got lucky with mine, with my Airbnb, because when I sold it, I didn't want the furniture, right?
Yeah.
And
They wanted to.
Yeah, they wanted it because a doctor was moving in from out of town.
Yeah.
And his mother was buying him the house.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
and they wanted all the furniture because it looked great.
Yeah.
So they walked into a fully furnished house.
Yeah.
I'm not suggesting that's a good exit for anyone.
No. Yeah.
You got lucky.
Because you're selective. It's among a smaller pool of people. A lot of people want it empty, so they can
they want
just
their own
put
stuff.
Exactly.
I literally had a client say to me, looking for her own principal residence, it's like, I don't like this house. Like, why? It's gorgeous. Everything you want. Fits your budget. It's beautiful. It's like, my dining room table won't fit.
Wow.
Like, okay.
You see?
Because she had a big oversized dining room table.
Yeah.
And so it's like, in hindsight, that house was like $800,000-$900,000. She waited 3 years, and then the pandemic happened. Now that house is like 1.4. So.
Oh yeah.
So that dining room table was a $500,000 decision.
But that's how we make these personal decisions that hurt us.
Yeah. It is what it is. I make my decisions largely with a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
People make decisions with their dining room table, not at their dining room table, about their dining room table.
Yep.
So there's so many questions to ask. What kind of how do you determine pricing? Actually, that's a good question. How do you determine pricing of an Airbnb?
Great question. So, I mean, there's different ways that you can go about it, and you can spend a lot of time doing it, or you can just quickly spend a couple hours. But the first thing is you want to do it properly, which we've tested out, and we also took a course on this, requires you to have an Excel sheet where you actually have to unbiasedly rate your property against some of the top ones that you see in the neighborhood. So there's a whole process. You actually have to do some market research on there. You have to find the local competitors to yours. And we say local, it has to be exactly, for example, if you're a 3-bedroom, You narrow down what are some of the other 3-bedroom in the area. And then you kind of rate them on how they're designed, how their photo looks, right? And then after that, you kind of see the average. So there is a formula that we do, but if we're just going to do this quick, what I would do is, once again, go on Airbnb. So I would look for a property that's close in the region where our property will be. And I'll look to see, okay, other 3 bedrooms, what are they charging for this time of year, for various times of year? And then if I notice, also, if they're charging really high, but their calendar is empty, so I have to take that into consideration. Right. And then another property is really low, but it's fully booked. So what we normally do is we take an average of that, and we just kind of like play that out. I guess we put that pricing initially, and then we monitor. So we monitor for the first week, we see what's the demand like. Is there a lot of inquiries? And we have to constantly adjust the price. So that is, I guess, the quick way of setting up the price for me. Do you have other ways that you do?
Well, it's based on a lot of it is based on supply and demand too. So depending on how quickly things will get booked, if it books quickly, then we'll raise the price a little bit, and then if it's slow, then we'll lower the price. So it always is. It's hard to determine. There's never one price. There's a lot of factors that play into, and we can go even as far as studying the hotels if they're comparable to like a 2-bedroom unit, for example.
Whoever you consider your competition.
Exactly. And so pricing is a great question, because that is one of the biggest thing that, when it comes to getting your place really full and, increase your occupancy rate, is really how flexible and how quick you can adjust your pricing. Basically, just because your price lower sometimes doesn't mean it's good, because if your price lower and you get booked really quickly, there are people who will book at a higher price if the supply is really low. So you kind of missed out on those people. And when everything's booked, then they have to basically pick another property, which might be a little higher. So I find, like, if you're willing to, if you kind of have faith that your property is nice and it's the way that it should be, where you want a certain type of clients and you're willing to not have to get it fully booked like 6 months out. I guess it depends on how you are as as an investor, as a host. Some people are in a rush to get everything booked, so they will slash down prices, right? But based on what we learned through different, pricing software, is that there's a strategy that you don't need to get booked right away, but you want to get booked for the right price, so your revenue will be higher. So someone can have full occupancy, but the revenue will be lower than someone who's booked, let's say, at 80%, but at a higher revenue.
Because image and ego start to play factors. Like, there's some clients that will rent, and if you're charging, let's just say we'll throw out a price of $1,000 a night, even if that property is let's say it's just an average Airbnb, people will book that because it's at $1,000 per night, and they can say, I'm renting an Airbnb at $1,000 a night. But you can also rent that property for $200 a night, but then now you're attracting a different clientele. Right. But this clientele will they sort of value money different than somebody who's willing to pay higher.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of different factors that come into,
It's interesting because for the same property, we've seen where we increase the price and we get like this guest that comes in and they're amazing guests. And then the same, you slash it off 50% and you get guests. So you figure they're happy to be able to book a property that's normally double in price, but they come in and they give you the most problem because they're normally the type who can't afford the other. So because
I'd always remind like novice investors, I call it return on grief. Like, I need to be compensated for grief. Right. So if you're a pain in my butt, the price needs to be higher. Right.
Yeah. Which we don't mind, right? That's why if you set the price at a certain level, you're gonna get a certain type of people, and if they demand a lot of you, that's okay because you set the price to expect those demands.
Right.
But the moment you start slashing...
You're being compensated for it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The moment you're getting slashed all these prices, they still want the same, treatment, and they're asking for a lot. Now you're just like, oh, the price is so low. Now I have to do all this too.
Well, I mentioned it's much like being a realtor where, you have a client that comes in and their budget is, X amount, and then you have another client that comes in that their budget is twice that amount. The person whose budget, if you're like right in the middle, and you have the option of selling to somebody who has twice the budget, it's a lot easier for them to make decisions versus somebody who's at the higher end of their budget. Then they start to nitpick quite a bit.
Right.
Yeah.
No different than like someone who's selling who doesn't have much equity or the negative equity.
Right.
That's
Their
right.
decision making is very different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, do you still you have? It sounds like you have some of your portfolio is suburban, and some is like traditional recreation cottage.
Yeah.
Right. So let's talk to the cottage market, the strictly recreational use properties. How has demand changed since COVID versus today, which is September 2023? Have things fluctuated at all?
Yes. Well, we have a property a couple of properties in Niagara, and I think
Crystal Beach.
in Crystal Beach, which is all just a beach town, right? And so
Yeah, it's really quiet during the week.
yeah,
It's,
in the
it's
winter
winters.
months as well,
Yeah.
right?
But come summer weekend,
There has
hard.
been a huge slowdown in since I guess the peak of COVID. I think during the peak of COVID, a lot of people were just traveling within Ontario,
Yeah, we're
within
stuck.
Canada,
Yeah.
right?
Anywhere
There's
within
nowhere else
driving
to go.
distance, yep.
So business was good for a lot of people, not just us, but a lot of other people that own vacation rentals. But I think the last year and going into this year, we have seen quite I guess there's not a lot of bookings, and for the ones that do get booking, I feel like the pricing, you have to really slash down prices compared to 2 years ago, right? So you're kind of getting killed at both ends. Your prices are low, and then you're booking. But if you don't, everyone else around you, the prices are low. So
Right.
if you keep it high, and it's hard. So we have seen a slowdown, right?
Yeah.
I ask because I see all these people courses promoted for like cottage rentals or midterm rental. Because from talking to people on the ground like yourselves, it to me it doesn't seem to be a sound decision to be getting into it as a pivot. It makes more sense.
Yeah.
Like I have problems. I'm vacant. I don't want long-term tenants. I understand why you want to pivot.
Yes.
I don't think I'd want to go out there and buy a cottage and jump into this at this
Unless
time.
you can afford to sit on the property without having tenants,
Right.
I would strongly recommend against getting into recreational properties,
like acquiring a property
Yeah.
for these strategies.
Yeah.
Because what's the entry point for a price point? What's the entry price for one of these properties?
Well, it depends, but in
3.7.
yeah, at Crystal Beach, you can still get in at, I guess,
$500,000.
Yeah, but the problem is those like $500,000 properties don't get a lot of inquiries.
Yeah.
It's the one by the water, and they're over $1 million.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, fair
now, if you're going up to Muskoka or other region, you're talking about past $1 million for sure.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. I've seen
1 to
the-
2 million.
I've seen lots of stuff at 2 million or more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we have had friends who bought, a cottage, but they're well-to-do and they just want to enjoy. So then
Right.
they're going to buy because they have the money to.
Right.
That's fine. But if you're acquiring it just so that you can make money off Airbnb, I don't feel like it would be a good time right now to do that because the rates are so high, right? And
Because you used to be able to, like in Crystal Beach, where it was close to us, so we have a lot of conversations with investors there. If you had bought 4-5 years ago, you can afford to sit on it for the whole entire year
Right.
and just make enough rental income,
Right.
Yeah.
from the summer.
Yeah. Or if you were really timed up perfectly, you bought during the crash of the pandemic.
Or if you bought during the crash, yeah.
Yeah, because what was it? A large percentage of that community is American owned.
Yes.
So they couldn't even come.
Yes.
yeah, so they stole
A lot of them
a
had
lot of the
sold.
properties.
Yeah.
They had to sell it because they weren't planning on coming back
They
anymore.
couldn't.
Yeah.
Right? Everyone was scared.
Yeah.
Couldn't get over the border.
Yeah.
And I think they've created a new, what is that? It's a tax for out of
Out of-
like if you don't live
Yeah.
in Canada.
Vacant home
out-of-towners,
tax
yeah.
and foreign buyer tax.
Yeah, foreign buyer taxes and things like that. So it makes it very in Crystal Beach. It's very expensive for.
Yeah. I mean, if you've always
residents.
wanted a cottage and the price have gone down compared to the peak of, let's say, COVID, and this is what you really want, then yes, but not as an investment strategy to be able to rent it out and make income from
Quit
it.
your job and
No, it doesn't. Yeah.
enjoy your cottage and live for free. And no, crushing my dreams here.
Even with
It's a lot of work too.
even
though.
if you live in
We need to
this,
put it together a course so we can promise people you can quit your job and live in your cottage.
but even then, like even if you live in the city and you're commuting an hour, like with
Yeah.
gas prices too, a lot of those things.
Hey,
Unless you're,
we-
driving
we-
electric.
From the
do-
money, I can afford a helicopter.
We have friends where we told them to get into the Airbnb, but they bought their cottage long ago and they were thinking of moving to another property and they weren't sure. So, they tried it and it worked for them. They were
Right.
able to rent an Airbnb. I'm saying like 3 years ago, they
Right.
made a lot of money, but it's a lot of work too for them.
Oh,
And
no.
now,
I don't like a lot of work.
see, and now they're looking. So now they just got a long-term tenant,
Yeah.
even though the money is good. But at the end of the day, after they pay everything and all the work they put in, it's not as easy as it used
Yeah.
to be,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Because my cottage, you tell me your experience, but my cottage friends are like, they all complain about the amount of maintenance there is.
Yeah.
I can live with the amount of maintenance in my own home that
Yeah.
I live in.
Yeah. Yeah.
I can't imagine having a second property to take care
Yeah.
of. And then also I'm hearing, like my good friends with cottages, it's challenging to find tradespeople.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, for sure.
It's tough finding any help.
I remember-
Cleaners,
Yeah, I remember
tradespeople.
we were managing a cottage and there was issue with the septic tank, and the guests are there on the weekend, so you
Yeah.
want to get it done there, but no one's available until let's say a day
Some
after
people
or
don't know how to
Monday.
take care of a septic tank. I've owned a septic tank, so I understand like there's many things that can't go in there.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
even you have cleaners that they don't want to work on the weekends, for example. They only want to clean Monday to Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And turnover
It's-
days.
it's Sunday.
Usually a mess.
Yeah.
It's like we have the whole community. We have a 5-hour window to clean everything.
Yeah, and a lot of these cottages are in smaller communities, so it's not like you're able to find your cleaners, your handymen, like how you would in the city of Toronto.
Right,
There's
right.
so many,
Yeah.
right?
Because you could probably, if in your apartment days, you could probably find a cleaner within the same building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the Facebook group for the building.
Oh, yeah.
They don't have a cleaner. Five people.
Yeah.
Right? And they're in the same damn building. It's so easy.
Yeah.
But people forget, like cottage country, houses are like acres apart.
That's right.
So,
Yeah.
They don't have the same density. It's not as easy. So this doesn't sound as rosy as it.
Definitely not.
So why do you guys do it? Why do you guys do? Well, because you have your own properties that you rent as vacation as well.
Yeah.
Because the way you started hasn't changed a whole lot. You still rent out your own properties for vacation purposes as well.
Yeah, the reason why we per se still do it for, let's say the one we have in Crystal Beach, is for us, we unfortunately, we still don't want to deal with long-term renters
I don't know why.
in that space, right? Just the type of tenants that you would attract. I mean, we have other properties that we rent out to long-term tenants, but there's headaches with that too. And thank goodness, so far our tenant has been great. But we have many friends who the tenants won't leave. Like I'm sure you have many of those stories.
Yeah.
So, they're out 8 months of
No,
rent.
I have problems with tenants that stay, and my house is like $1,200 under rent.
Okay, yeah, that
That's
too.
a problem too. But
That too.
it's better than them not paying rent. So
Yeah, at least they're paying some amount, right? But however, we don't know if we're going to keep it for long either, right? Because as a long-term strategy,
Right.
it's
So you
not
can
going to
hedge
work.
this way. Right.
Yeah.
And then what's next for you? Actually, no, I have other questions as well. Around qualifying good property, like properties that you want to manage. Are there any certain amenities or location, anything like what's the secret sauce? Like for example, a client of mine, I think he put a hot tub at almost every one of his properties. Of course, that doesn't work for every property.
Water features are
Right.
are definitely a big seller. So when it comes
So
to
like a lawn
renters,
sprinkler, a slip and slide carpet.
yeah,
If the house already has a pool, that's great, like for the summer months, right? But hot tub,
a hot tub.
yeah, I definitely, or if it's near water, like if it's you have access to water or lake or river where they can do all sorts of water activities. Like we
Right.
have a property in Mississauga that's on like the is it
Credit River.
yeah, the Credit River.
It's right on the Credit River.
On the
Yeah,
Credit River.
That's
yeah.
probably worth a fortune then.
Oh,
Now it is, yes.
I think a $3 million house. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's a beautiful home. And I guess she does interested in doing Airbnb and trying it out, so we're managing it for her. And we have guests who would come in. They could go fishing. They would take the kayak
there's
out.
salmon in there.
And in the winter, they can go skating.
Because as long as the
river.
temperature is cold enough, it freezes fully over. They can just pave it, and you can go ice skating right in the backyard.
Yeah.
And what does that place rent for?
So I believe it has right now. We just changed the price, but it was minimum at least $1,000 a night.
And then is there a minimum period that you have to
Yeah,
rent
3
for?
nights.
Minimum 3 nights?
Yeah. But it was pretty booked in the summer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what do you expect for the winter?
In the winter, currently for September, it's at like 60%, right? But it still has, so we had to decrease the price down a little bit. And we're actually looking, so it's a whole house, but there's different strategies. So in the winter, what we're planning to do now is we're splitting, because they have actually 2 separate entrance. So we're splitting the house out where we're renting out 2 smaller units, because people are not traveling as much in groups. So in the summer, we noticed people who are renting it out would be like either executives or like groups that are willing to stay in the whole house, and they're willing to pay the price for
That's
the
a
whole
lot
house.
of money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there are people that stay there for like 3-4 nights, and they're paying $5,000.
Right.
And they were happy with that, right? But we know in the winter times, we're not going to get as many of those people who are traveling. So we are splitting the property in half, where upstairs 3 bedroom, downstairs 2 bedrooms, so a smaller family can still rent it out as well. And we even have properties where we even consider right now to split into room, in terms of room. We have friends in Toronto who've done that. The challenge with that is you do need to have a local person who's available. It's like running a mini hotel, right? Like it's when you split room by room. And companies that do room by room, they have to charge management fee a lot higher.
They charge a much higher management fee.
For
Almost
example,
double.
Like what?
Like 30%
30%,
minimum.
yeah.
30%. Yeah.
Because I've seen like the top end. I've seen high
40%.
I've seen like high 30s.
Okay.
Yeah, for like luxury management.
Yeah.
I'm not saying the property's luxury. It's like their luxury.
Yeah. They give you everything, right?
I don't know what they give you.
Luxurious for the investor.
Yeah. So we are actually looking to see, we're testing different things where we can rent out room by room. Like we have a friend who rents out room, and her guests don't even have access to a kitchen. These are just like 1 or 2
Just
nights
there for
guests.
sleep.
But she says
In
it's
the bathroom.
fully booked,
Yeah.
and she's able to, like the income is really good compared to when she was doing it as a full unit. So it depends, but she's in the city of Toronto.
Right.
So it makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I've been doing research on like Tokyo hotels and stuff, and they do like like the pod. Maybe that's your next step.
Yeah.
Where it's just
Yeah.
it's really just a sleeping area.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's like a tube.
Because that's all they need, right? To
Yeah.
sleep overnight, and then they're traveling out and about.
I think it's like works up to like $40 a night.
Yeah.
American.
Yeah.
So we have a room full
Something
of
like
pots.
You get a bunch of them. That'd be,
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah, maybe we have to look into that.
I was going that way.
I wonder what
It
the
is,
laws
it
are.
really is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw the saddest thing. Like a city councilor on Twitter posted a for rent ad, and it looked like the bedrooms were in a crawl space.
Oh my
Right,
gosh.
so it's just a mattress on the floor, and then like a really cheap wardrobe, like probably some sort of wire frame and cloth. You know what I mean? I think you can buy them probably on Temu or something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was like 3 something a room. And it wasn't even really a room. It was like a curtain wall.
Oh my
And again,
goodness.
it's in a crawl space, so like
Yeah.
the ceiling looked 4 feet in Windsor. And then city council posted it.
Reminds me of
That's sad.
reminds me of college days. I remember living in on campus at Waterloo, and 2 of my buddies were renting a 2-bedroom apartment, and I came in there. I walled off half of the kitchen and the living room, and I created a little bedroom there. It was great. I woke up to them cooking breakfast every morning.
For you, cooking for you.
No, they're cooking for themselves. But I smelt everything.
Need better
I've
roommates.
never managed a student rental, but I've heard a lot of student rentals. I mean, there's a great landlords, and then there are also landlords who cram all the students into crazy spaces. So I can imagine, you know, that would happen.
Now, I remember you talked about like your early property management experience of being an Airbnb host, and things seem to have changed a lot. Like for example, like my experience, often when I send an inquiry, like it's really quick. Like, there seems to be a lot of auto response tools or whatnot.
Oh yeah.
Explain that. Like, what is it like? Is it like, this is like AI? Are these like built-in chatbots that they give you, or are you just sitting there waiting for inquiries to come in with your phone?
Yeah, no, I mean,
I'm always on my phone waiting to.
No, for
reply.
us. So as soon as you send an inquiry, you can set up these automated messages where you're like, "Thank you for your inquiry. Someone will get back to you." But generally, want someone on our team. As soon as we see an inquiry that comes in, we will respond to the inquiry. So yes.
Sorry, you have like staff that are just at the desk.
Yeah. No. They're work from home. So we have. I wouldn't say a staff, but a contractor or a partner.
Yeah.
Within our company that we took on to help us manage all the Mississauga properties, right? And so but aside from the Mississauga properties, any other properties that we take on, it's me and John. Basically, we're on the phone all the time.
Yeah.
So we're responding to our clients. But we do plan to actually have staff that would be full-time to be able to answer to everyone. Right now, we're able to manage most of the responses ourselves because we find it's how you respond as well, because the automated messages sound automated, so you can see that. And
yeah, you can get away with certain messages being automated, but there's some that need the personal touch.
yeah, and most of the time they inquire by asking a very specific question. So you have to answer to that question before they continue to take the next step, right?
Although thinking about it, I think you can use AI to.
We have to look into that.
respond.
We haven't.
Yeah.
I know, but it's not your platform. It's probably a little more difficult.
Yeah, I don't know.
And also at the same time, I'm sure they're working on it.
Yeah.
To make it easier
Oh, yeah.
for you.
Yeah, I'm sure. Airbnb has changed so much in terms of the way that the app is and all their features. They're constantly changing. They're adding new features, new things, just the way it looks, the way it lays out. And so we're
But
constantly
just like
learning.
much like with communicating through text, a lot can get misinterpreted through text. So I've used AI to reply to certain guests who maybe sometimes we're not on the same page, where they might be getting offended by the way we're communicating and what have you. So I'll type into ChatGPT and I'll be like this I need you to reply to this message and have this set certain tone and and
But that should be built in by now.
it should be.
It's not, but yeah, it should be.
It's, for example, I've communicated with people in different countries, and it's obvious they don't speak English. They're probably using some sort of translate function.
That they do.
Yeah.
Yes, so they do have that because we have guests that are from other countries, and when they message us, it's in English. But you can tell they don't speak English, right? Just certain things. And so they message in their own language, and it translates back to English to us. Yeah.
So how about red flags? What are you looking for? Because I'm sure you don't just let anybody rent from you. I know you've had some nightmare stories too.
Oh yeah.
We had to learn, right? The red flags for me is generally if it's their first time on the site.
Yeah.
So usually if someone inquires and I look and there's no reviews and it says it's their first trip, we always qualify the guest and we said, what brings you to the area? We notice, so we say it straight out, we notice it's your first time using this platform. Are you familiar? Are you okay with all the house rules? And so I think those are some of the basic things that we do. Anything else?
Yeah, there's timelines, like a certain minimum amount of nights. They've gotten, I think one of the big red flags is if somebody's looking to book for one night, they tend to be parties.
Right.
Yeah.
But they're asking though. Do you allow single night booking on your platform?
Not anymore. We do a
we
minimum
don't.
of 2
We do
nights
too.
on
But they
all
still
properties.
would message and ask you, like, hey, we notice yours 2 nights minimum. Can we do it for one night? And generally we say no. Right. But the red flags for us is usually in their reviews and if it's their first time. And if they have reviews, I always read through the reviews to see what the other hosts say about
Another
them,
thing would
right?
be their age. So much like renting a car, you should be at least 25.
I think 25 to rent a car, or used to be.
Yeah, 25, I think it is. So we've made exceptions because sometimes we don't want to judge people and what have you. But for the most part, it depends on how they reply and what have you. If they tend to be under 25, like we've set it as a a rule or what have you that when they're booking they have to be at least 25.
Yeah.
But
Depends on the client. Some of our clients says they don't care they don't care the age as long as they obey the house rules. But a lot of clients are strict on that, so we respect that, and so we set that up. But yeah, we do make exceptions, except when the exceptions kind of burn us and throw us back in the face. We're like, oh, we knew it.
And then there's location. So if somebody lives in Mississauga and they're renting a place in Mississauga,
That's odd.
yeah,
For one night.
Well, for 1 or 2
Yeah.
nights. Sometimes, a lot of times nowadays, it'll be just for they're booking for they've
Out
got
of town
family
for a wedding or
visiting.
something.
Yeah, which is understandable. So I find as long as if they're willing to communicate with you, not short answer, but they take their time and just have the conversation, then usually they're pretty good guests because they want also good reviews for future bookings as well too, right?
We actually have one negative review because some places make you actually take your garbage with you.
Yeah.
So we didn't have any more room for garbage. So we said to the host, please charge us. We're
Yeah.
not taking the garbage.
Yeah.
Like you said, you have a $35 garbage fee, just charge us for it. They didn't
Wow.
charge us for us and instead gave us a bad review.
That's
weird.
I know. There's both, right? There's good hosts and bad hosts, and then there's good guests and bad guests, right? But no, we would never do that for us.
Which is also
we take care
funny.
of all the garbage.
They allowed us to rebook as well for the next year. We ended up canceling and found something else, but it was our backup. And then on the other side, like I'm empathetic with landlords. I don't know why. No, I'm kidding. So actually, when they ask me, "Oh, what are you in town for?" I'm like, "Oh, I'm here with." Like when we went to Ottawa, for example, I'm here with my. I'll let them know who's coming.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't even ask. Like I'll be here with my wife
Yeah.
and my videographer. We're here for work. We're going to be doing some interviews. Feel free to Google my name. It's very unique. You'll find my LinkedIn, and you'll find out exactly who I am.
Oh, that's great.
Right?
Yeah.
Again, again, I can empathize with
Yeah.
what you're looking for, what
Yeah.
you're screening for.
Yeah,
Right?
for sure. Oh, I do want to add is if they want to take it off of the app as well too,
yeah.
because back then.
Explain why do they want to take that off the app?
Yeah, because back then there was I think last year, I don't see it as many anymore, but last year I got this sleuth of just inquiries from, I guess, it would be Asian actually, business owners from New York. They're always in New York. And they're coming to Toronto to research the market, and they are willing to pay $10,000 for a week at a property, but they need to talk to me on WhatsApp or phone first. And then instead of booking, they would just ask a bunch of questions. And so that is also a red flag for me.
What is their objective? Are they serious or
We
is
have
this
no
a scam?
idea. We feel like
That
it's a
is
scam.
probably a scam.
Yeah.
See, there are scams going on, but
anytime they request to chat with you on another platform, then that's a red flag.
Yeah, but it's just the way that they say it. They're like, "Oh, I'm on business trip." But we have people who do want to take it off of the app to save on the fees. So you kind of have to gauge too. And if you're willing to take it off the app to save on fees, I mean, in the past we've done it. We've actually, based on, I guess, our conversation, we felt like it was someone we can trust. We kind of figure a way to get on the phone and through email, and they pay us directly. And thank goodness they left our place well. Nothing happened. Yeah. But that's a risk you have to willing to take, right? Because anything can happen.
I heard this common in cottages because people are habitual, right?
Yeah.
They want the same week every summer.
Yeah.
And so
repeat customers is that's not an
that
issue
we
at
don't
all.
mind to do direct.
It's
like,
the first
they can
time
book
where
directly.
that
immediately want to go off.
Yeah. We never talked to them before, right? And they
So-
just want to take off.
So explain your protections as being an Airbnb host on Airbnb. What are your protections? What's the benefit of staying on versus going off?
So for us, well, they have the $2 million damage insurance.
Air cover?
Yeah, air cover. So anytime a guest damage your property or breaks something, you make sure you get proof. You make sure you ask your cleaners for photos or videos. Then generally they make you put through a claim to the guest. And if the guest is not willing to pay, and I find usually if it's a big amount, the guest just not willing to pay, Airbnb will pay it out for them. Yeah.
How big?
Like a few $1,000s. They will deny it.
Well, it depends on the damage, right? Like if
But like it wasn't us, right?
a group comes in and they completely trash the place, they will cover up to $2 million.
Yeah, we haven't had that happen,
No.
and I don't want to try that.
No.
But apparently, yeah, they will cover up to the amount, right?
But Airbnb is, for the most part, as an owner and a host, they're probably the most accommodating to owners and hosts compared to the VRBOs or Booking.coms and what have you.
They're pretty
got a
quick
good,
when it comes to their damage claims,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
We even had a downtown property that, unfortunately, the guests came in, they got bed bugs. We don't know if they brought the bed bugs or if they were there already, but Airbnb,
Pay for
they
it.
paid for everything.
Wow.
Yeah. Because I think
Because it's hard to prove who did
Yeah,
Right.
because with the bed bugs, they know. I feel it's because they know that once you become a host on Airbnb,
Yeah, you're much
subject
higher
yourself.
risk. You're way higher risk.
So I think it's a smart move on them that they cover it and for the inspection because it's you don't know who brought it in. It could have been the past 3 guests, right? You just never know.
Well, no, but like, just putting if I put my insurance hat on, you blame, when you owned it. When it wasn't an Airbnb, the bugs were there, so that should be your problem. You know what I mean? Because we experienced it as landlords.
Yeah.
We got cockroaches. Never had cockroaches until you moved in.
Yeah.
Did I put the previous tenant put them there, or you've been living there for 3 years and now you have them? I wonder who put them there.
Yeah. But people will deny if they can, right?
Like, I don't know where they came from. You've been living there by yourself for 3 years. This is the first time that
We've never seen them
They were just
before.
hiding before
Well,
that.
that's this case. Like our guest came in for a week, and it's now like at the end of the week, and they said there's bed bugs. So now we're like, so when you first came the first day, did you not experience this? See, like it's hard.
I know
right?
it's hard because if, for example, they came from somewhere else. Like my parents have picked up bed bugs in like 5-star hotels in Europe,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And if you were their next stop,
yeah.
right, then they brought them with them.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have known.
Yeah.
Right? They may
Yeah.
know. Like, well, it seems to be a higher concentration of bed bugs in my luggage.
Yeah. But as a host, the first thing you do is you offer a full refund, right? If you want, I guess because they still can leave a review,
Right.
And it's hard to argue, even if they brought it in. What are
But
you
that's
gonna
where
do?
you go. You start to, as long as you've done your homework and you've read the reviews from their previous hosts.
Right.
A
And
lot
they-
of times, if they've got a good reputation, then you want to
Right.
you
the
they've earned that for a reason.
Yeah.
Wait,
It's
hang
true.
on. If you return your money, are they still allowed to give a review?
Yeah.
Yes.
So they can
They
still
do.
give you a bad review?
Yes, that's
Because I
what
see
we
that on
learned.
Amazon, for example.
Yes.
This is a piece of crap. I returned it, got all my money. 1 star.
Yes, that's exactly what
That
happens.
sounds like
Wait a
good customer
second.
service.
Yeah. Yes. They can still give you a
Like-
review.
Yeah.
I know, right?
That should be qualified.
I know.
Right.
I agree.
I agree too.
That should be a qualified review, like as in like asterisk. Like it cost you nothing. You stayed for free. You got your money back. Whatever.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like if you get your money back, you're not even allowed
Right.
to give
Or
a
like,
review.
say you were unresponsive. 1 star. They're unresponsive. Like you didn't really lose anything. You didn't really invest anything. You didn't really lose anything. You give a 1-star review.
Yeah, and a 1-star review can really impact a listing.
Right.
Like Airbnb is so strict now, they actually are suspending a lot of listings that have 3 stars and below.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just to give you perspective,
So it's like they hold so much power.
the maximum you can get is 5 stars, and as soon as you lose or get rated anything less than 5 stars, you can never have a 5-star record ever again.
It takes a while.
No, you can never go back to 5. You can get to 4.99, but you can never get back to 5 stars.
So I guess now that as a host, we're very like aware of when we are traveling and booking as a guest of how the reviews really impact the host business, right?
So how do you? Because I think everyone asks for reviews. That seems to be the industry practice. How do you ask for them? How do you maintain them?
Oh, and usually in our checkout message, we have an automated checkout message that says, we hope we've done everything to be able to get the 5-star. We actually suggest for us to get a 5-star review. If there were anything, we hope that we had it all resolved. And generally, usually if they had a great experience and nothing happened, that message is enough. But if there has been things that happened, then we would send out a custom message where we're like, we know this happened, but we were able to solve it or resolved it for you. Would you mind still if there's still feedback, to give it to us personally direct, but to leave a public review that, it's not damaging. So we would ask for that.
Right.
And then and then a couple of days later, we send them a reminder for a review.
Right.
Yeah.
When Adam, Cherry, and I stayed in Airbnb in Ottawa, the door locking system was just so difficult. Like, I understand I've worked in computer industry almost my entire career.
Yeah.
Previous to being full-time real estate. And like, it was, I couldn't ship, no one else could have the app but me. Mm-hmm. So the other guests had no access other than call me and get it in. And then like, it was just so difficult.
That sounds like the August smart lock.
There's some smart locks that are not great. Yes.
and so it's like, otherwise the place was gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a little short on parking, less than they said it was. So I chose not to leave a review because it wouldn't have been 5 stars. So I just chose not to leave a review.
Yeah.
You know what? That actually is the preferred way. So for us, I rather that the guests don't leave a review and just give us the feedback.
Yeah.
If they feel they can't be honest. Like in a review, you want it to be able to. And if you can't leave a good review, then don't leave it at all. So that's what we would do too. Yeah.
So
even for guests, I mean, some guests, I feel like if I leave a review, it might hinder them from booking from other. But some of the things they did is not terrible. So I would still give them a feedback. I say in the future, if you're looking to rent again, make sure you look out for these things because it would go a long way and would help the host. We're just gonna let you know. But if I put it in a review and give you like a 4 or 3 star, it might impact, right? So just communicating to each other like human beings.
Yeah. Because changing the lock is not hard. It's probably pretty expensive.
No, that is not hard. Yeah. Did you tell them that feedback?
No, I was too busy. They'll figure it out.
Someone else
will leave a bad review and let them know.
Well, that's the thing, right? We've learned that there's no coaching on how to review people.
No.
So some people will be, I think, sometimes a little too honest.
Yeah.
Like 1 star and you have your money back. Like, wow, like that's harsh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
You lost nothing financially.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. How else do you maintain guest experience then? Because it's critical. Like for example, when I'm on Google Maps, for example, and I'm trying to pick a restaurant, I immediately filter for 4 star and up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's critical to have good reviews.
Besides the review, it's what you write in your bio as a host too. Like you want to share a little bit about yourself and then all your co-hosts as well too. But yeah, I definitely say the reviews, and in terms of your photos, you want to make sure you update it. It's nice photo. So even in the review, what I notice is that even if someone gives you a bad review, you can still respond to it. And how you respond to that review, all the guests will be able to take a look.
Okay, so everyone can see
Yeah.
it.
So for example, even if, they weren't happy with something, but we resolved it and we explained our sides, so then a future guest can see the full picture. So always make sure you respond to all the reviews, especially if they're negative reviews.
Yeah.
Cleanliness. Cleaners.
Yeah.
Happy cleaners and cleaners that do a really good job. I think a lot of times that can go a long way. People that come in to rent your property and what have you, is they, if they come in and it's less than perfect, it's understandable to an extent, but for the most part, if they find anything that's not clean, then
it's a big issue.
It's a big issue. So we make sure that our cleaners get paid well and that they're happy, and we have a checklist of things that they need to to go through and what have you, to make sure that when there's the turnover is done, the next guest comes in and they have a good experience.
I mean,
if you were buying a property today for Airbnb purposes, can you paint me a picture? What would it look like? What would it be?
Sure. I do have an ideal. So even a specific location, for me, I would buy in I'd say Niagara on the Lake, for example, right? Where I know that a lot of the areas, they are giving out a permit, and I would make it.
Oh, you want it to be legal, eh? Okay.
Yeah, I want it to be legal.
Oh wow, Heidi.
And I would have a themed, and I would have a pool. It's either that, or I would even get out of Canada and I would do something in the U.S. Like I would go to the US and maybe not buy. If I'm doing Airbnb, I would arbitrage. So I might get into like a beautiful home that I can negotiate a lower lease with the landlord, and then I would furnish it. And we haven't even looked into what area, but I would definitely want a water feature as well too.
Well, something that you can rent out all 4 seasons.
Yeah.
You know, the challenging part of Canadian real estate is that when winter hits, January, February, unless you're in a ski town,
Yeah.
you know, you're not. It's
Or
going to slow down.
snowmobiles, I heard is okay. Maybe ice fishing.
Yeah, maybe ice fishing, snowmobiles.
But getting a little bit more niche, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't think no one supplies snowmobiles, do they?
No.
Yeah.
That'd be
So,
awesome.
I think that would be awesome. That would, I mean, you know.
Or
that be a
I
cool
would even get
experience.
into tiny homes actually up in northern Ontario. We have someone that was in a group, an Airbnb host group, and they had a huge cottage. We're talking $1 million cottage and a tiny home with like a spa and everything. And their tiny home was booked the same amount, if not more, at the same price. And it cost them less because there's just a demand for these unique tiny homes. Maybe it's a trend. I don't know in a couple of years if it still is a big deal, but people are looking for unique experiences right now. So yeah, if I have the money, I would test it out and see.
Fascinating. And then you mentioned Airbnb arbitrage or rental arbitrage. Do you offer that as well?
We actually don't, but we can if someone wanted to. Let's say they are themselves who wants to rent a property out and then get us to manage it, then we would do it. But we're not offering to. Currently, we have, I guess, clients in Toronto who said, "Can I just rent it out to you guys for a monthly fee, and you guys do the Airbnb?" But the pricing that they're looking for doesn't make sense for us, right? Because of the occupancy rate, and when we crunch in the number, it's not consistent enough for us to take it.
Probably
over.
a novice investor. And is it a vacant home too, like not unfurnished?
Yeah.
That's where it doesn't really make sense in Canada to do that. You'd have to go down to the US because it's just too expensive to arbitrage here. There's too much liability.
Yeah, like if they want us to pay rent $4,000 a month, right, in Toronto, then you got to make sure you guarantee that every month, right? Which I guess you can, depend on the location, but we haven't thought about that yet. Yeah.
Now, are you taking more clients still?
We are currently taking clients because we have to review some of the clients that we had in the past, I guess, 3 years, and we actually had to let go of some of the clients, because it just didn't make sense for us.
Geography or just it wasn't working out as a short-term
it's
rental,
just it's both, but it's kind of like the caliber of the space is not really what we're looking after. What we want to, we want to focus a lot more on kind of like a luxurious feel, or like
you mentioned tiny homes just a minute ago.
Yes,
that can be a luxury.
We're talking about ice fishing earlier.
Yeah. So some of the properties that we've done very well with are ones with the pool, with the hot tub, and we put a lot of time and effort into it, but the return is there, so it makes sense as well.
Well, you have
for
to
us.
identify as a host and as an owner what kind of rental you want to be. Do you want to be budget friendly? Do you want to be luxurious? Do you want to be somewhere in the middle? Yeah. Because for us, the challenge is when we're managing too many different styles of properties, there's a lot of juggling.
Right.
You know, one owner will say, oh, "Okay, I want you to buy towels from, from Walmart or Dollarama." And then the other one is just like, well, no, I want these, I want Egyptian cotton sheets, and
you really have that.
There's some owners that want to provide that for their guests.
As long as Costco sells it, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Well, Costco's actually good.
Costco's great.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they probably do sell that.
Yeah, they do.
I'm just surprised someone says like, "I design. These are my materials that I want."
Yeah.
Well, but having to stock both is,
Right.
if you're having to stock towels for all your guests or for all your clients, you've got to run to Walmart to get, or a dollar store to get cheap towels for one client. Then you got to go to, Costco, and you need a membership for Costco to go. It becomes
versus
a lot.
Costco only usually stocks 2 SKUs for each category. They would probably only sell 2 towels.
Yeah.
Versus Walmart sells like
Yes.
A lot of towels.
Sorry, but to continue that question, so we are accepting new clients, and of course it depends on the location of the property. But what I've noticed in the past year that I'm getting a lot is that there's a lot of people that come to us that first, I guess they wanted us to manage, but then eventually they're wondering if they can do this on themselves, by themselves, and of course they can if you have the time. It's a lot of work. But let's say if you're working part-time, or you're running a business and you have time, or you're stay-at-home mom or dad, you can do this, right? But they were still asking a lot of questions. So then what I've decided to do was create, I ran a bunch of workshops all the time. I haven't started yet but I probably will start in October or November, where a lot of these homeowners would come and they would learn. And so I would teach them how to become a host. And I see that has been working for them as well, too.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, because when I did it, not even that long ago, 2018, there was very little resources back then.
Yeah, there's not a lot of resource. I'm considering, I've had, I think about 4 or 5 now who actually said, besides, they want to know everything. And I said, over a phone call or a 3-hour workshop, you can't know everything. So
you're probably pretty well equipped at that point.
Yeah. So I've actually considered putting together something where it's over a course of 8 weeks where I'm holding their hands, and then I can show them what to do as well, too. So we've been in talks. I've been in talks with a few homeowners who wanted to learn everything but do it themselves, and because they don't want to hire a property management company. I know there's a lot of courses out there too, but the thing about courses, as someone who's taken courses, a lot of them are very expensive, and I find some of it, you can find a lot of it online yourself as well too. So I wanted to help people, but I want to make it affordable. So we'll see. For now, maybe the workshops will do.
So where can people learn more information on either the course or your business?
Yeah, so we have a website. It's called Short Stays with an S, INTL. So it stands for Short Stays International. So shortstaysintl.com. And if you go on there, you can enter in your email and it'll send to us, or you can email us directly. It has all our contact information on the website as well too. Yeah, we're pretty.
You can find us on Facebook and Instagram.
And then we can share you our contact information if you put on the podcast, and people can just message. And once again, it doesn't matter if you're planning to be a client of ours or you just have questions. We love meeting new hosts and other people that want to get into the space and just want to kind of ask some questions and to see where to start. Yeah, so we love to be able to help.
Do you have a host referral URL or something?
Oh, that's a great question. Actually, there is an Airbnb host referral URL I will provide. I don't remember it off.
Is it a hard one? It's not like a custom. It's not a vanity, nothing.
I think we have to be the ones to invite them, though, isn't it?
No, it is. It's it's Airbnb something /my80. It's something like that, right? And you're right. If you become a new host, they give you, I think, $34, but they also give us a few $100s just for referring.
Right.
Yeah, so we do actually have that now that you mention it. I will send it to you. I don't have it memorized.
Any final thoughts on investing in general, short-term rentals, VRBO, anything?
Let's say.
No, I think for us, we just want to be able to create a community of hosts that are like-minded, that we can, share ideas with, that we can work together with, and that we can, create this movement of short-term rentals with that create a great experience for guests.
Well, even just trade tips and do your meet together, talk to each other for your own market research as well.
That's right. Yeah, for us, short-term rental was just another means, and then it became a business. But at the same time, we pivot to also midterm rentals as well too. But at the core of it, I feel we're real estate investor at heart. So we're always looking for different ways, and it doesn't always mean short-term is the right strategy for a particular home, right? So for us, we believe in long-term, short-term, everything that has to do with real estate. And we're constantly looking to learn from people like yourself, Erwin, and other investors out there as well too about this this industry. I mean, there's so much to learn. Yeah.
I should have asked this earlier. Is there a preference between short-term versus midterm rental?
I like midterm rentals now. I find because people are in there at least for a couple months. and generally they're good gas. They're not, and there's not, because when you manage a bunch of smaller short-term rentals, there's a lot more active work that you have to be involved.
And
right?
they would detect cockroaches a lot sooner than long term.
But the good thing is now with the long term, with the midterm ones, then there's less work for our cleaners. Our cleaners are happy when there's more short term. There's more work for them, right?
Okay.
So there's pros and cons to both.
Yeah, you need a mix.
Yeah,
perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
As long as it's legally.
Yeah,
you're legally able to do it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Actually, no. That's such a good question. What's it take to get a permit, and what are your government costs to operate?
So it depends on where, but in the city of Toronto, I mean, I've seen a permit been given in like a couple of days to a month, right? And it costs. Yeah, not so bad. It costs $50 to register for the city of Toronto. That's the cheapest I've seen, right? Mm-hmm. Mind you, a lot of people don't know how. You just Google short-term rental Toronto permit and it pops up and you can fill out. We serve a lot of people in my own community, which is Vietnamese, who they're not very comfortable with online and English language. Then they ask our company to maybe help them, guide them through on how to fill that out. But it's so simple. It would take a couple of minutes and you can get your permit. Mm-hmm. I know in the city of Mississauga or up in Vaughan, it's a different price. It probably is a few $100s. And I've seen it in Niagara, it's a few hundred to maybe max in Fort area is like $1,200, right? So it depends. Yeah.
$1,200?
Yeah.
That's significant.
Yeah. It depends what your government want to make money from.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And then limitation, like I hear some places like you're only allowed to rent for like half the year. That's
yes.
your maximum.
So in Toronto, you're only allowed to, if you ask for a permit for a full unit, then it's only 180 days short-term rental, because they assume you're living there, right? Because in order to be qualified, it has to be your principal home. So you must be living there. So how can you be renting out the entire year?
Right.
You can only rent out 180 days. Now, if you apply for a permit to rent room by room, you can rent it out unlimited, because technically you can still live there and rent out the other rooms. So unlimited. So when you fill out that application, make sure you choose, is it a full unit or is it room by room? And when they, what is considered a full unit, you can't say you live upstairs and you're renting down the basement if it has separate entrance, if it has separate kitchen, because it's considered as its own unit. Right. So you need a permit for the top floor and the permit for the basement if you have separate units like that.
And does someone come and inspect?
Yeah.
Yeah, they do eventually. Not initially when they give you the permit, but maybe a month later, 2 months later, depends how busy they are.
Send a city worker, or we've seen fire inspectors and stuff like that, depending on the region. You know what? I actually like the fire inspectors coming out, because they'll check to make sure that your fire extinguishers are up to date, your smoke detectors, your
it's good.
CO2 sensors, because all those things would, the horror stories that you hear sometimes just because.
Yeah, like you see in the newspaper how this Airbnb burned down, and things like that.
In the context of Hamilton, I've been following the Hamilton story for forever, and just in my anecdotal stat tracking, 2/3 of who die in fires is usually university students.
Right? I know, that's sad.
So I have no problem with fire inspections for student rentals.
Because
it's almost 80% of your problems here. Go ahead and inspect them.
For sure. Yeah. You want to make sure everyone is safe staying in your place, right? At the end of the day.
I know, but 80-20. Like 80% of your problems is in these neighborhoods, these houses. Like, go after it. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for making the trip out. I know this isn't the closest place, but thank you for coming in.
Well, thanks for having us. This has been fun.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for giving us the space to share and learn more from you.
Thank you for watching. If you want to learn how to invest in real estate from scratch, my team teaches beginners how to use the #1 investment strategy that I personally use in a virtual free training class every month. Go to investortraining.ca/YouTube to register for our next class. The link's also in the description as well. I publish at least 2 to 3 videos a week here, so subscribe if you want to keep learning from seasoned investors like myself and my guests. And if you're just starting out, feel free to ask questions and comment below, and I do the best to answer each of those comments and questions myself. Again, if you're ready to learn the nitty-gritty about real estate investing from a professional investor, register for our next virtual class. That's at investortraining.ca/YouTube. Thanks again for watching. See you in the next video.